How do you tell the difference between a lead generation website, a actual local business, or a franchise? That's what we're talking about in this video. Hey, it's Randall, the digital landlord. I basically build websites and I rent them to local businesses for cash flow. The cash flow comes in either weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, and it's pretty passive, or at least as passive as it can be. Now, I recently learned that YouTube loves shorts, so I have to speak a little bit quicker, make these videos a little bit more high-end and high energy. So a little house cleaning here. If you're interested in this business model, hit that bell, subscribe to the channel, or better yet, go check out the website, digitallandlordlifestyle.com, and there you can enroll in a free membership, and we'll get you into the Facebook group. We've got plenty of reviews here. I've got 10 here, 5 stars across the board. Super proud of that, guys. I'm really doing this business. Before time passes, there'll be a bunch of gurus teaching it, right? So let's just jump right into the video. The reason you're here. If you are new to this business, you're gonna have to know how to recognize who to sell your services to and who to skip, frankly. There's going to be legitimate local businesses. There's going to be franchises, typically nationwide, national, and there's going to be lead generation individuals like myself, right? And you don't want to waste time when you're prospecting, come across one of my sites or my competitors and call us and start offering either literally me answering the phone or my VA or my lead buyer, right? So I want you to use this tool. This is Valentine app, and you want to type in, say, the niche. Let's say you're in concrete contractors, and type in the city, St. Louis. What that's going to do is going to place your IP address out in St. Louis so you get a more accurate result. And you want to come down and take a look at the results. So I'm going to skip past the ones that are obvious, that are not local businesses, such as the Better Business Bureau, such as Home Advisor, and we're going to take a look at this gentleman here, Sam the Concrete Man. So let's just go ahead and open this up and let's start with him. Now here is the criteria, right, that we're going to be looking at. And first things first, this actually has 2 birds, 1 stone. It also shows you, sort of the generality of what a lead generation site could and can look like. But we've got the above the fold here. They've got a nice video, a nice H1 up here, which is for SEO purposes, and then a form. To me, it's looking like some sort of hybrid of the two, like it might be a legitimate business because of the branding. But then I'm starting to see some things that I'm like, maybe not. Let's look a little deeper. So let's look at the bottom here. I'm going to be looking for an address. Why an address? Because if it's a lead generation site, they typically are not going to have their address. They're just not. Well, these folks actually have an address. So it's like, well, let's look at something else here. What do you notice at the top? They have a change location. A change location. What do you notice about, you can't see it on my screen, but the URL? The URL itself, let me bring it down here. This URL has St. Louis first, versus building it out for the actual city. So that's a telltale sign that this is a franchise, is what I'm feeling, right? Let's look at the testimonials. That's on the list over here as well. So in franchise, we have semi-real testimonials and reviews. Well, if we go back to our concrete site for Sam here, we've got what looks to sort of be real, but not really. I mean, 5 stars is just sort of an image. We've got some real photos, but it doesn't look like it's an actual application that's bringing in legitimate reviews and testimonials from, say, their Google business profile. The Google business profile is a product of Google. There's many plugins and ways to bring those reviews into the site, and these just, I'm sorry, they just don't look legitimate. So again, we're in this sort of middle zone. The next thing I'm noticing is they have some videos, which is a good sign. It shows that they're trying to be real, but if you play the video, it seems pretty generic and a little overproduced. And most of your local companies aren't they're just not going to be that level. So let's look at some other things here. We've got social media links. What happens if we click this link here? All right, so we've got social media. We've got some real posts here. They're professional. Okay, Let's go back to our list here. So we've got generic branded business name. Yeah, that's pretty generic, isn't it? When you think about Sam the contractor, that sounds like a really generic name. I mean, it just simply is. If you look at the next thing on the list, it says real address or multi-locations. Well, we saw the multi-locations across the top. That's a telltale sign of a franchise. And, the social media links do take it to a real social media site. And lastly, a real potential blog, right? So let's go to the blog. Is it real? they've got a real blog. Now, here's something interesting, guys. Most of your lead gen sites, as well as real businesses, local businesses, will typically not have a blog. They just won't. And the reason is that a local business will hire somebody to build their website and never consider building out a blog. They just don't have the time. Whereas a large business, like a franchise in this case, they're going to have a digital marketing professional that's just churning out blogs all the time. So if I were to go to survey says, this is probably a franchise, definitely a franchise, just based on how everything is structured. I mean, this is a franchise here, especially with this right away. Telltale sign here is the change location. Let's go have a look at another one here. Let's check out Douglas Concrete. Douglas Concrete, above the fold, they've got a video. It looks legitimate. They're mentioning the words St. Louis. They've got St. Louis and Missouri here. Residential, they've got driveways, patios. This to me, just based off of the word Douglas Concrete, I don't know if Douglas is also like a neighborhood in that area, or if they're trying to use like a last name, maybe like a hybrid, right? Which is, a combination of what's a real business versus, having a keyword in there like concrete. So our company, let's look here. Again, there's no real mention of the owner. I've got a map here and then a bunch of cities, website designed, advanced, Douglas Concrete and Construction. Just based off of how it looks and based off some of the rules we have here, no physical address. Well, I'm not seeing that here. Let's go to contact us and see, or blog rather, and see what this looks like here. Well, they've got a blog, and most local businesses aren't going to have that. Let's see, no address, just a phone number in 2 areas, and they've got this, typical bid deal here. Just based off of that, I'm going to say this is, yep, definitely a lead gen site. This is a lead gen site. It doesn't have an address, it doesn't have a business owner. It's mentioning the city a little too much on every single blog. And again, a local business, a real local business, is probably not going to have a legitimate blog. They don't have the time to do that, right? So this is just somebody who knows a savvy company or is a savvy company themselves as a lead gen company, and they're generating leads for a real lead buyer, basically. So this one officially is a lead gen site. All right, next, let's see who else has a real website, a franchise, or a lead gen business. We've got this, I don't even know how to say this name, Kleeschult. This might be a legitimate company. It's got a last name. They're mentioning St. Louis. Now, be careful of that, guys. Anytime that there's, a company that's just like, St. Louis, St. Louis, St. Louis, St. Louis, they're just overdoing the optimization. A lot of times that is going to be a lead gen site. We've got some testimonials. Again, they're kind of questionable. And I'm saying this is a lead gen site just out the gate, just looking at it. They've got the phone number, our work. There's no mention. Is there an address? No address. Again, let's go back to the list. No physical address, no legitimate business name. They're using like that fake type of like last name combined with concrete. So they're kind of there. They're almost kind of getting away with it. Let's see if there's social media. So there's social media. So let's see if there's any posts. A lot of times they'll have like no post. Oh, okay, yeah. It doesn't even load here, right? Google Plus, that's kind of old. And then follow us on Instagram. Oh, they've got some posts here. Was this recent? Got 33 followers, and we've got like an official address. I could go against what I mentioned earlier. Or maybe not. If I look at these photos, they look a little too professional to really say that it was something legitimate. My verdict is gonna say it's a fake. That's a lead gen site. They did a pretty good job of making it look, legitimate, but I'm gonna say lead gen. I could be wrong. It could just be somebody who hired someone who does lead gen, right? And they just sold them a site, and the word Kleeschult rather, yeah, that could be a legitimate name. So, let's go 50-50 on that one. Let's go take a look at another one and see if we can't figure this out. Who is a lead gen site? Who is a franchise? And who's a legitimate local business? We've got St. Louis Driveways. How does that sound? St. Louis Driveways. Let's look at the social media. Is it just the page? They've got quite a bit of posts here. These are real pictures. These are real. You see how there's actual work getting done rather than just like a finished product? So it's like halfway through the process. I'm going to say this is a real business without even looking at the rest of the site. The site looks like a lead gen site, but again, a lot of the SEO specialists, if you will, they're good at what they do. They've got some legitimate H2s here. Let's look at their other social media, because another way to tell is if they're, let's look at their Facebook page. Let's look at some reviews if we can. Because if there's some real reviews, that's the best way to tell if this is a real lead gen or not. Now remember, you're doing this, you have to be able to tell who's a legitimate business, who's a franchise, because you don't want to sort of sell your services or attempt to sell your services to a franchise. You don't want to attempt to sell your services to a competitor, a lead gen like ourselves, right? You want a real business, right? So look for a real name. What this person did is they're a real company, but they might be using like a DBA. So I doubt they named their real company STL, but what they instead did is they have like an LLC, right? And it might be like, you know, his or her last name, right? So their last name might be Sanchez. So it could be like Sanchez Concrete LLC. And then they either built the site themselves or hired a company and they called it STL Concrete, telling them as a client, like, hey, you might want to name your website this. Yes, we know it's not Sanchez, but it'll rank better. But this looks legitimate. Do they have some, let's see if they've got some about us videos. Here's a little trick. If you write the word reviews in the URL at the end of the URL, you'll be able to see some potential reviews here, and you might see some good ones, some bad ones, and that tells you Derek is a thief. Yeah, that's a real website, and it's a real company. Now, naturally, it could have been a lead gen, right, that was renting it out, and this was the real deal, but they usually don't say, you know, the person's name, right? So here's another one, amazing work. Yeah, so I'm gonna say this is a legitimate business, and if not, then this lead gen did a pretty good job of, like, you know, sort of staying under the radar. Is there a real address down here? Yep, they've got a real address, and it looks clickable. Maybe it goes to the Google map. Okay. Yeah, again, it looks like a legitimate business. All right, so let's see if we can find a couple more here. So St. Louis, you are a legitimate business. All right, let's take a look and see who is a legitimate business, who is a lead gen site, and who is a franchise. We've got Baker Construction. So legitimate name, legitimate site, that's a real company. Now, companies that grow kind of larger, they may not always have their address here, so I wouldn't worry too much about Baker here having an address, but just from the look of the site, it's looking like a legitimate company. It doesn't look like a lead gen site. Let's see here. Let's see if they have any type of blog. Good, no blog. Oh wait, here we go. Okay, larger company. I'm going to go against some of the things we mentioned earlier, so I want to explain something to you. If the company is like nationwide, like large, they will have a blog. And that is not really a company you want to sell to. You just want somebody who's local, who's ready for growth. They do have a blog, but it's because they're off the charts here. They're not going to fit into one of these here. They're a real business, but they're not a local business. So Baker, real business, but just not a local company. So we're just not going to pitch to them. That was actually a really good example. Let's see, we've got Home Guide. Now let's look up another city. Let's see here. Let's do somewhere in Texas, maybe like El Paso. Tejas, geocode it, boom, search. Not a good sign we don't have a whole bunch of anybody at all doing some paid ads for concrete, but we do have some results here. El Paso concrete contractors. What do you think? Right off the bat, what do you think? Go back to our list here. No physical address, no legitimate business name. That is number 2. They're breaking number 2 rule. Let's click on it. Here's the above the fold. Right out of the gate, a generic logo, a nice big fat H1 with the GONA keyword. Yep, that's a lead gen site. For sure, they've got this quote. I've seen that on other sites before. And so, yeah, you don't want to call this number. You don't want to pull this URL and get all this information or have your VA pull it all, and then you call them. It's just not going to go good. You're going to end up calling a lead buyer, and that's not cool. Look across the bottom. Nothing. No address, no social media, no blog, nada. So that is, survey says, fake. That is a lead gen. That's us. But I want you to be able to tell who's doing this business and who is not. And I couldn't think of another word that could really hone that in. Let's see what else we got. So let's come down and look at a couple more. Maybe This is obviously anytime you see these sort of little carrot deals here, these right angles, this is a telltale sign. It's just some national company like Yelp or something like that that sells leads. Essentially, that's a lead gen, but I'm talking about lead gens like my company, like legitimate agencies that sell, lead gen as a service. Here we have Allen Concrete. Again, you have this sort of generic last name, but it could be a legitimate company. Let's see here. Provide responsive services about us. So it's 2004. That's a good sign for a local business. Come down. I don't see an address, but that's okay. A lot of them won't put their address. It's built by GoDaddy. A lot of business owners will build their sites themselves on GoDaddy. It's just they buy the domain from there and they offer it and they say, oh, don't spend thousands of dollars, just build it yourself. And so, yeah, they do that. Yeah, this to me looks like a legitimate company. They have a real name, a real logo. Let's see if they've got some projects. These are real pictures from a company. It's not just some, something pulled from Adobe or Shutterstock. They've got careers, another telltale sign. Guys, the survey says that's a real business. That's a real business you would call up and you would ask them, hey, do you want my services? Right? Lead generation services once you're ranking in that area. So that is how you do it, guys. Go ahead, write it down, take a picture. These are kind of the rules that I go about when I'm trying to determine how to spot a lead gen site. Don't call our competitors. It's not going to go good. Focus in on real local businesses, right? That have a legitimate name, that show their address, that have like befores and afters, because otherwise you're just going to waste your time and you're going to get frustrated. So I hope you like this video, guys. I'll be putting out some more here, and probably the next couple of weeks I'm actually going to drop some due diligence videos. I'm Randall, the Digital Landlord. Check out the blog, digitallandlordlifestyle.com. There you can sign up for a free membership within Facebook, and we're in there learning this business. Inside of there, I teach you pretty much the whole model, and here's the process here: due diligence, building, ranking, prospecting, the trial, the close, the repeat, and scale the company. For now, here's all my social. Come and follow me. And yeah, so thanks for stopping by. I hope you see you on the next video. Have yourself a great day.
Yeah.